we were concerned about the seating because we would have some people that would be far away from us up on a stage,
Right.
and some people way over on the side and all this kind of stuff. And it really didn't matter. It was no effect because everybody was up.
Yes.
It didn't matter East Coast, West Coast, your side, my side.
Right.
Everybody was talking and having a good time.
Right.
I saw people exchanging phone numbers and Instagram accounts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, this is why it's so important to be around great people, to be around good people. We're back. We made it through the wedding, all of the enjoyment going around that, and we will discuss that later. And right now we're settling into our new lives as husband and wife and everything that comes along with that. And so we're excited to continue Love, Growth, and Narratives. And before we get started, I want to hand it over to Tiffany to do a little business.
Okay, you know what I'm going to say, right? We have a goal this year that by December we would like to get to 100 followers on YouTube. So please, even if you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go to YouTube, hit subscribe, and tell a friend and help us reach that 100 mark. You know, we're getting a few each week. We're getting lots of feedback from people that we know, and surprising feedback here and there from people that we know that they're listening. But we also want to get those subscribers up because, you know, when you have those subscribers, that can open up a lot of doors. And that's what we want to do. We want to get this out to as many people as possible. So we appreciate you that are already listening and following. But please share that with family and friends. And especially if you came to the wedding, right? Make sure you subscribe. We appreciate that so much, your support.
And real quick, before we start into our conversation, we love for people who have come up and have called us and have given comments and praise and everything on how the podcast has gone. We'd also love to see it, you know, in the comments section.
Yes.
You know, on like YouTube and especially YouTube, but also in Apple and Spotify. Because what that does is that also helps to get the conversation going and other people can jump in. And so we would really appreciate, you know, although we do love the in-person and the phone calls and text messages, we also would love to see it, you know, right there on the different channels.
Right. Please. And thank you.
All right. So we'll get started in just a minute.
Okay. So I want to ask you, since I did the majority of the planning,
yes,
you were there with me.
You can say all of it. It's okay. It's okay. You can say all of it.
Yes. But you did attend some of the meetings and things like that. But I don't think you were as present or as invested as I was in what was chosen, every little thing that was chosen.
Nope.
So once you walked in and you saw the venue and how everything came together, like what was going on in your mind?
I got to tell you, it blew me away because I had a difficulty conceptualizing the things that you were talking about and how certain things had to work with certain things and the chargers and the runners and all these different types of things. And so, I had a difficult time conceptualizing. But then as I walked in there, it's like, okay, now it all makes sense.
Right.
All of the work, all of the obsession that you had over every little detail, it actually all worked out. I mean, it showed up perfectly.
Right. Well, I'll say for me, they put everything together the way I envisioned it. I didn't get a chance to see the final, like an example of what the table exactly would look like, but I had an idea and it actually really came together very well. And I am all about those little details.
Yes,
and people would say that, well, you know, no one's going to care or no one's going to notice.
That's what I was saying.
You and other people too, right?
Yeah.
But people do notice the little
Yes,
details,
they do.
especially women, especially teachers.
Yes.
We are going to notice. And, there were so much compliments around that, like all the little things that went into it. I didn't even get to see all the things that, I had come up with there because I didn't roam around during cocktail hour and, things like that. But everyone shared that with me, and
Yes.
people took so many pictures and they made videos, which I feel like is a really, good way to see that people enjoyed themselves. So
Yeah, it was interesting as I spoke to the guests that were more detail oriented, mainly teachers like my mother and your friend, and they noticed every little detail.
Right.
Now, of course, the fellas with me, oh, this is cool, it's really nice, but that's about as far as it goes,
Yeah.
So it was no, it really worked out well,
Yeah. It did.
and that whole week. Because you were really on edge for I'd say probably the last month,
Yes.
and then you never there was never a time where you said there's nothing for me to do. You kept saying, oh, well, what about this, and and I can also do that, and so there was always something, and I powered through it.
Yes, you did. You did. And
I kept saying, okay, this is gonna come to an end soon.
Right.
We're gonna have the final reveal at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited to see, everything that you've planned and lost sleep over all of these many months.
Right.
To see it actually
Right.
come to fruition was pretty awesome.
It really was. I mean, like I said, we started early, right? Well, we got engaged December, of last year.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon we found that venue like a month later, right? And then a month after that, all broke loose, right between my mom and
I broke
you,
loose.
right? Yeah.
My hip
People
broke loose.
right?
My hip broke loose. Yeah.
Helping, everyone with that, that it was pretty intense and went on for a couple of months
Yeah.
to support. And so, me taking off of work first to help everyone and then like to help myself mentally,
Yeah.
it kind of was like, woo. And I wasn't even really able to plan that much. In fact,
Yeah.
here and there, I would buy things that I thought I wanted that I ended
Yep.
up not even using. So that was,
Those are the things you could find.
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, but once everybody was better, I was able to start really getting back on that train. And of course, work was in play as well. But I think it went well. I mean,
Yes.
going along the journey, I'm pretty sure most people have this issue unless they have the money to just hire somebody to do everything for them, and I didn't do a lot of do-it-yourself stuff.
Right.
I mean, I wrote on the eyeglasses, or whatever, but most of it was, I purchased it.
Yes.
It had, it had to get to the venue, but it wasn't like I created and made everything. And then as we were getting closer to the end, there were certain things where we're like, you know what? This isn't going to be the most fabulous, but we're going to figure it out, right? Like the seating chart. I wanted to do like a cute one with everyone's names and the table numbers, but it was like, you know what? We're going to do a QR code and it's going to look good too.
And it worked out fine.
It worked out fine. It did. It did. And it's something that's totally going to go away in two, what I mean? Like the minute people use it, it's no longer useful.
Yep.
I mean, you can come up with creative ones that can be useful, but it was okay. But at that point, I was like, okay, I'm done. I need to now start gathering up some energy for the day.
Yes.
So I had to start to let some things go, but it didn't impact it at all.
No.
It just, and when I walked in there, I was like, oh my gosh, it was maybe even better than I imagined, because I was thinking the space was going to be really tight, and it wasn't. I thought that the space was good. This floor space was good. I ended up getting an additional day of coordinator because one came with the venue, but I feel like they were more, their job was more like to help make sure that things that went on with the venue were going well. Well, the day of coordinator was all like about me. And that was so helpful. I mean,
yeah, that was actually a big deal, because when we had spoken to the sanctuary initially, it was, we will do all of these things. And so the fact that you had the presence of mind to bring on a day of coordinator, that was really big, because the staff there and the coordinator there, they do a great job, but what they're doing is they're managing their staff.
Right.
They're not managing the event.
Right.
They're managing the staff. And so since you brought in someone to manage the event,
Right.
that was very helpful.
It was very helpful because I thought, there was like 13 boxes that needed to get to the venue.
Yep.
And you can't store things overnight because there's weddings the day before and all of that. So I was like, how am I going to do that?
And you can't leave anything.
Right. And when we're staying at the hotel, we couldn't take 13 things, you know what I mean? So the fact that she picked it up early, got it off our hands and cleared up the living room a little bit and took it all home that night. And we didn't have to worry about it until like a week later. That was just heaven sent. And then on top of it, my friends kicking in
Absolutely.
and helping out as well, because it really is a big job that day, right? And your family kicking in and helping out, running around telling people, do this, do that, helping with the photographers, gathering who needed to be gathered, getting people where they need to go. It was just like, it was fantastic. Like
it was. But let's back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Because there was something that people who had recently gotten married had told me about, which I believed them, but I didn't realize the magnitude of it was the guest changes up into the point of the wedding of people saying, hey, can I bring my friend? And or, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it. And just those types of things, right up to the moment.
Right.
And then of course the sad piece of that was, a good friend of mine, I don't know why I call him friend, but he's a brother. He's honestly like my brother, Robert Parnell, who I've been friends with. He and I have been close since I was 19 years old. We actually we became adults together in the Army. And he and his wife and his son, they were all dressed up and they were at the airport and they kept having difficulties with the flights and kept getting pushed out. And he even sent me pictures of them and they're all dressed up and
they're purple.
Oh, and texting us up to the morning of the wedding. And it was just like, I had to tell, I really appreciate you trying, but it doesn't make sense because the flight, had they actually gotten on the next flight that they were scheduled, they wouldn't have gotten there till 11 o'clock that evening, which is after the wedding.
Yeah.
And then they would have had to turn around and go right back home and pay for hotels, pay for the flight. So at least with this, they were able to get a credit so they can come out some other time. So that was a bummer.
Right.
But then I had another good friend of mine, awesome friend of mine, Uton Donaldson, who stepped in and said, because I had Robert to not only sign the marriage certificate as my witness, but I also had him to do the toast for me.
Right.
But luckily I had Uton, who I've also been through a whole lot of things with.
Right.
So he knows me extremely well. And so he was like, yeah, no problem. I can figure it out. That's no problem.
Right.
So that was awesome.
Yeah. It was hard. Like we really tried to make sure we knew who was going to come. So like even with our save the date, we were already asking for RSVPs then. And then we continued to ask to them all the way through up to the point where we had to give our final count. And
then you have people who, I'm coming. Well, then RSVP.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Right. That was like a big push.
Yeah.
And then it's one thing when someone you invited isn't able to come, but when their guest didn't come and it's like, and they asked for the guest, like, oh man, right? All for us, all we see is dollar signs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. We're still paying for this, even though they're not showing up.
Right. And it wasn't a cheap wedding, I would say. So that was a bit challenging to see that happen. But when I think about it, when I count, I would say like 5 people didn't show up. I think that we were expecting to. Yeah. And
that wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Everyone had some kind of emergency.
Yes.
One of the guests who had their +1 that didn't show up, we kind of knew a few days before, but it was still too late to take them out to not pay for them, but they had asked for that person only for days later to retract it, but it was too late, like with the venue or whatever. So Anyway, those things happen, people.
They
People
do. They
But I
do.
would say 5 is not that much. We had 109 people that we invited, and 5 couldn't come, and for for the most part.
And there were legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
I also had, my friend Yaya, who, was having car troubles, and as far away as he would be driving, it doesn't make sense for him to risk his safety. So those types of things, I totally get.
So it does happen. So just like the people out there, just swallow that. Like it does occur.
Yeah.
It's hard if it's like I've heard people like 20 people, like that's hard.
Yes.
But this one was, wasn't too bad. But the people who made it, like it was just fantastic. A fantastic group of people. We have such great family and friends, like legitimately, where our family and friends say that about our family and friends.
Yes.
Oh my God, because not like they all know each other.
They do now.
They do now. You're right. But it's, everyone is just so happy to meet all of these different people. And like, it just was a great vibe. Like I had fun. I do have some regrets that are like my friend Laura, who was extremely helpful.
Very
helpful. Laura, Medea, Jen, just amazing. Catherine was getting people to do the, go into the welcome table and all that. And I appreciate that. I'm sure there's a million other people that I don't know maybe about everything.
My sisters.
Yes. Sisters, your nephews.
Yes.
People get about all of that. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say for a second, but I don't remember what I was going to say right there.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay because what I wanted to talk about before we talk more about the wedding is also, we had the rehearsal.
Yes.
And we had even with the rehearsal, we decided to switch some things up, or you decided, and as well as the coordinator kind of decided to switch some things up in terms of the order of walking out.
Yeah.
And then we had the rehearsal luncheon.
Yes.
At the hotel, and that was awesome. And it was good because we got to see a lot of the out-of-town people, in a more relaxed setting and informal setting, and that was awesome.
That was great.
I had not only my parents, I had, 2 of my uncles.
Yes.
I had, cousins and my sisters, nephews, it was, and a lot of friends that came from out of town.
My mom's childhood friend.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked to her for a while. That was great too. I mean, it was wonderful.
It was awesome. Shout out to your mom for, sponsoring that. That was huge. And it really was nice to have that moment before, the wedding. I think it also kind of calmed my nerves a little bit because I wasn't thinking about all the things that I needed to do or wanted to do or need to be done or whatever.
And it took some of the pressure off because I know that one of the discussions that we had, several weeks ago was because of all the people coming, we wanted to make sure that we were able to spend time with, especially people coming from out of town.
Right.
So that luncheon gave us the opportunity to do that. So that worked out well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some other things that really worked out was your cousins were going to be the flower guys and they weren't able to do it, so at the last minute, fairly last minute, maybe, a few days before, we got my good friend Jerry that I've known for over 40 years. Her daughters stepped in,
they really stepped in.
Jordan. Yes, they stepped in and were able to do that for us. And I thought that was great. I haven't been able to see the video yet. I can't wait to see it. But I heard, that they were really great. So that was just awesome that we had, people to just step in when we needed them.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things, and I guess maybe I got to talk to the guys about this, when you're going through this and there's a photographer there, that photographer is probably going to want to take pictures of you beforehand and while you're getting dressed and doing all of these things. And I was like, okay, man, all right.
Yeah.
And he was like, take the jacket off now, put it on and do this. And I was like, come on, man, can I, because I had just been hanging out with a friend of mine that morning, kind of relaxing because you had isolated me, while you were doing your
the ladies.
doing your hair and makeup.
Yes.
Oh boy. So
I think I should have prepped you more, and I should have made a list of all the photos that I wanted to take, but prepped you more. But I was hoping, I kept sending you stuff like for the groom, like, and I was hoping like you would research and kind of get that part together for yourself. But I should have prepped you more for pictures, because that's one of my regrets too, that there were a lot of photos that we missed. It added on for 2 hours to the photographers too, and yet we still didn't get all the photos that we should have gotten, and I should have written it down and all of that. I mean, I sent them kinds of shots that I want, which we didn't actually all do either, but I regret not getting more shots with more people. But we did get, a decent amount. We did take pictures with all of the guests, all of the tables. I just wanted to get certain family members and even friends, like shots with them right after, and we didn't.
But talk about your hair and makeup, all of that.
Oh, yeah. So we did not sleep in separate rooms, right? So we didn't sleep in separate rooms. So when my hairstylist and makeup artist came in and they saw you, they're like, what is he doing here? Right? And so we had to, they pointed me away from him and told him, like, you can't look, right? And so he's still in the, you're still in the room quite a bit. And a couple of times they had to kick you out if I needed to walk to the bathroom, or I needed to walk to a mirror. So you had to go outside and come back in, back and forth. But shout out to Nikki Faces, she's on Instagram, who did my makeup, and to Gifted Tresses Bridal, who did my hair. She did a custom wig for me and installed it. But they were great. I mean, they're fun to sit there and, I felt relaxed with them, before the wedding, you want to be as relaxed as possible. And they were great. They even handled some things, some phone calls that I had. They kind of jumped in and, because they're a little more feisty than I am. So I appreciated that, though. I appreciated their energy, and I appreciate the work they did. They did a really great job.
One of the things that I found that I was really impressed with about both of them was, even though you brought them in separately, they worked together. They
know each other.
Yeah, they do, and that was great. So there was no competition.
Right.
It was the two of them. Hey, you need this, I've got that, and they were, just that collaboration to make sure that your look was successful. I thought was awesome.
Yes, it was great. I mean, everybody that we tagged on, and especially I had a little mishap with the makeup artist that I previously was going to have, where it was hard to get a hold of them, and we had to just go separate ways. So it was great to find someone who was able to do it kind of on short notice, and still do a really great job. And in terms of the wedding coordinator, the day of coordinator, that was a little later probably in the game, and she came recommended from the florist, Little Hummingbird in Long Beach. Her name is, the name of her company is Darling Roads Event Planning, which you can find on Instagram. Her name is Daniela. She was awesome, very helpful, very cheery. She made the best little video. I almost hired a creator, a social media creator, but she did a cute little video.
She really did.
And she captured lots of cute things. So did my friend Laura, and so did Dion. They all did, and so did Mikey. Everybody captured some great shots.
Yes.
And put a little cute video together that we're able to share. They got over 1,000 views, so that was awesome. She was awesome, and she ended up giving us a book.
Yes.
You want to show it?
Yeah, she gave us this book, How We Love, and her sister is
a therapist.
Is a therapist, and we will actually be talking to both of them sometime soon, so that we can kind of get the coordinator side of things as well as a therapist side of things. And the reason why that's important is because when you're going through that process and one person is obsessed about every little detail and the other person is less than obsessed about every little detail, so
need some therapy after that.
I mean, there's a lot of pressure. And when one person is feeling an extreme amount of pressure and the other person isn't, that can cause resentment, that can cause a whole lot of issues, and that's why I really tried to make sure that I was putting effort in, even though, I wasn't as excited about the different colors of purple and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I was excited about what we were doing.
Yes.
So.
And I think we both highly recommend going to couples therapy, which we do. We've done it for a while now. It's been a good amount of time, 6 months maybe or more. We totally recommend that. It's just good. Even if there aren't any particular problems that you know of, sometimes things come up
especially when you don't know of any problems.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can uncover things that just haven't come up yet that
Right.
might be there.
Right. So that was helpful in this wedding process, which I think we talked about in another podcast. But
Yeah.
some other things that were kind of a mishap was the ring situation.
Mm-hmm.
So without naming the name of the company, which is a reputable company that has good, it has good reviews and everything, but mistakes happen for everyone. A couple of issues happened. So the ring, they were making a ring for me based off of a ring that they had. And they changed the look of it quite a bit. And I wasn't the one that picked it up. You were.
Yes.
And so I didn't see it, initially.
Yeah.
Like we put it in the safe and everything. And I should have looked at it right away, but I didn't. Once I did look at it, I'm like, wait a minute, this ring is not what we agreed on,
right.
And on top of it, I was having them resize my ring because I had a little nice, little bit of a weight loss where the ring had to go down a size and a half, but they took it down more than that.
Yes.
So when I put the two rings on together, it looked horrible. My engagement ring was so tight on my finger. It looked like a sausage with a string around it, pulling it tight. And I was like, oh my gosh, anyway, I took it back. They had to resize it again, which made the ring part, which made the part that goes around your finger very thin. Like it's not the way it was at all because they up and down and what they did to it. And then they have to fix the wedding band to what I really wanted. And that was a big ordeal. We had to go round and round in the store and things got uncomfortable, but they agreed to redo it. Only is going to take 3 to 4 weeks. Well, initially told me that 1 week and it turned to 3 to 4. So I did not have the wedding band that I'm supposed to have on the day of the wedding.
Yeah.
So that was not fun either, but just had to swallow that. What can I do? Timing and everything. And I think just make sure you do as much as you can ahead of time, not so early that you would change your mind on like designs and things that you wanted, but certain things definitely give yourself time for mess ups, because you might mess up and then definitely somebody else, you're dealing with so many people and so many things. There's probably going to be some things that don't go exactly how they should.
Yeah. And through all of the obsession with all of the little details and making sure that everything is right, you don't want to lose sight of what you're actually trying to accomplish, which is getting married. And I appreciate when there were times, especially closer to the end, where things didn't quite go your way. You kind of took a deep breath and said, well, this is just what it's going to be.
Right. Because it is easy. I want to say it could happen with men as well, but I think for women, like we are focused on that day, and especially if you're planning and spending so much money. And shout out to my mom, like she paid for the wedding, she really came out and supported me, like she always has. But the wedding was a big deal. You get caught up in that day. You know that's what you're planning for that day, right? You're not planning for your marriage for all that time. And not saying you shouldn't, but honestly, you're planning for that day. And so I was so happy that it went really well. But at the same time, when we were putting the rings on each other's fingers, I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, what, like, is there gonna be something different the minute I put it on? And I was like, I stopped for a second, like, okay, what's different? You know what I mean? And it's not something that's instantly different. It's hard to even believe that what you're doing, that ceremony, even though the vows and everything were very touching and I was crying and you got misty as well, it still is like such a simple thing.
Yes.
For something that's so...
Yes.
Yes. And so I was like, okay. And then it took me even days after. I'm like, okay. And I hear people say husband for a minute. I'm like, what? Husband? Wait, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, that's right. And so now it's been a little over a week and I'm getting used to it. I want to wear my Mrs. earrings all the time. And I'm constantly looking at my ring and everything, even though it's the wrong one for the wedding band. But still, like, I'm starting to really settle in. And when we talk to people who don't know that we just got married, they just think we were, and they're on the phone, like, handling business today with AT&T, and they're like, your husband said. And I'm like, oh yeah, my husband said. Right? So it's really like...
It has been wonderful. There was 2 other people that I wanted to talk about. One of them was the officiant, Chris.
Yes.
Did an awesome job, got the crowd going. just really knows how to get everybody ready, and he knows how to shut people down in terms of cell phones and everything, and giving everyone a minute to take pictures, but then shutting it down again. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
But the second person was your mama.
Yeah.
Because she was newly ordained and
she married us. I don't know if we said that at any point, but
we talked about that, I think, in the last podcast.
Okay.
And she was newly ordained, and we weren't quite sure all of what she was going to say, and if she was going to get nervous, if the moment was going to be too much. And she stood there and just handled it like she had done it before.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just wow.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
She really did. I was really proud of her and really appreciative. And it was a very special, very special moment.
It was.
And especially just thinking about all that my mom's been through.
Yes.
And the ways that I've seen her this year, from being in the ICU, totally not herself, even using a different voice, to standing up there in front of 100 people. And
she stood strong.
Yeah.
She stood strong and just delivered it. And she was funny, and she knew what she wanted to say. She did great.
She did.
She absolutely did.
So it was really awesome.
So we had a lot of people that did well.
There's the speeches. My friend Jerry, she gave a really touching speech. It was just absolutely amazing. My friend Stephanie gave a speech. My friend Elsa and Medea and Sarah gave a speech. That was all amazing. And then your sister gave a speech, and your couple of your friends, Ben and Jerry, not Ben and Jerry, but
no, they are the Ben and Jerry.
Right,
forget the ice cream. They are the Ben and Jerry.
You're right.
And my great awesome friend Uton.
Yes.
It was great.
And
Joseph, our son, really just I think he really got the waterworks going, because when he started speaking, I think we all wanted to cry at that point.
Yeah, that was really surprising and shocking and touching, and just an amazing moment.
It was. And the other thing, and the reason why I'm waiting for the photographer to send back the footage, because my father danced.
Yes.
My father, who swore up and down, I don't want to do all that stuff. He danced. He danced.
Yeah.
Now, some of it may have been my mother making him dance, but whatever it was, he danced, and I loved it. Yeah.
Amazing, right? And your sister Gretchen prepared this, ritual that was done at their weddings, both your sister's weddings by you, for us to jump the broom, a very beautiful, lovely, of course, purple inspired broom. That was a really special moment too.
Yeah, no, that was, it was just, I can't even, we would be sitting here all night trying to talk about all of the special things, but it was a very special event, to have so many friends. Another thing was, we were concerned about the seating, because we would have some people that would be far away from us up on a stage, and some people way over on the side, and all this kind of stuff. And it really didn't matter. It was no effect, because everybody was up.
Yes.
It didn't matter, East Coast, West Coast, your side, my side.
Right.
Everybody was talking and having a good time.
Right.
I saw people exchanging phone numbers and Instagram accounts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was just, this is why it's so important to be around great people, to be around good people. There was not the slightest bit of tension from anybody.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody had the right mood, the right attitude. Everybody wanted to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
Even people who are normally introverted, like you, we're out there and dancing and socializing.
Yes.
I was so proud of not just us, but our family and friends.
Right.
Because that just shows, how much people care.
Right. Absolutely.
When I first got to the venue, coming out of the limo and everything, and the first person I see is Laura. And Laura saying, "Okay, Freddie, here's where you need to go." And I was just like, this is awesome. she just came in and took over.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people would have done would have just, sat around, oh, I would have done this, and they, this is what they should have done.
Right.
No, people who knew the better way of doing it just jumped in and did it. And that's awesome.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate how that went.
Yeah.
Because like the timing didn't go exactly how we wanted it to go. We did a first look and then, our taking pictures together and then taking pictures with my friends. Like the timing wasn't perfect, but everything still worked out because of the way everybody moved with each other.
Yeah.
So it was really great. It really was.
Yeah. And one of the things for me that kind of hit me in the middle of the reception was there was some people there who had been there for me in some really tough times. Some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast, just people who had just been there.
Yeah.
With all of my injuries, I could always get a call from Carlos and Laura. I always knew that. I knew that, no matter how I was feeling, I could always talk to Stacy and Lawrence. I mean, just all of the people. My folks on the East Coast, from Devon and Travis, and Utah, just people who, Tosha, just people who, when I was going through my tough times, they were there.
Yeah.
And they were always checking on me, making sure that I was okay. So in one of the greatest times of my life, for them to be there, that was particularly wonderful.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I'm trying not to get emotional as I'm thinking about this because I just don't want to right now. I am a very emotional person. But when I was giving the vows and I got to the part about thinking I didn't know if I was ever going to find, I already knew who I wanted before I met you. I knew what type of guy I wanted. And I wasn't sure I was ever going to find that. And as I was talking about that, I know that I've had this conversation with many of my friends who were there, and they've seen me go through, especially in the last 10 years, like go through just, what wasn't right for me.
Yeah.
And I know for them, it was a really big deal to witness me finally getting what I talked about. It's not just me getting married. They know that I'm getting what I said I wanted. And that, I think, is huge.
Yes.
And so that emotion was there because I knew how many people knew what was going on, and they understood that part so well.
Yeah.
And it was getting, it's just emotional for me to talk about that. So another thing on a more up note, so I don't get too wiped out here. For people, you mentioned the introvert, with me being an introvert, right? So normally, I think a lot of people saw me in a light they'd never seen me in at night. Right?
Yes, and they were telling me about
it. And I hope they don't expect that every time. No, I'm just kidding. But it's who I aspire to be, right? Yeah. But I rehearsed that day so many times in my mind. Yeah. The songs that were going to play, how I was going to dance to them, how I told myself, you are not going to be, on the wall. You know what I mean? Yeah. You are going to enjoy this. This is your day. You worked so hard for it all year, planned for it and everything, all the stress and the sleep loss and all of that kind of stuff. You are going to have fun. Yeah. And that room is filled with people who love you and that I love. So it was a very safe space for me.
It was.
But I still told myself, I rehearsed it literally. I played the songs. I'm like, this song, when winds come on, it's on. Yeah. Right? So I really rehearsed it, and that really helped. So for people who do have trouble with that, maybe that's a route you could take. I know some people suggested to me, because I met a few other people who were introverted, who would say, hey, I got married and it was hard for me knowing that all the eyes were on me, like they took breaks when they needed to. I didn't feel like I really needed that. It was okay. So it was just good. It was good times.
It was. And, we also had, my man LG Rhythm, Lawrence, being the DJ.
Yes.
And that's why I really wanted to have, a DJ that knows us,
right?
That knows what we want to hear. And his timing was just awesome. knew when we wanted to slow it down, knew when we wanted to speed it up.
Right.
Our 80s and 90s, hip hop and R&B.
Yes.
And, he nailed it.
Yeah.
He really nailed it.
He did. I think we had all the right mix. We had all the right mix to make a very great event.
Yeah.
It was just really, I'm so thankful and grateful for the people who came out, and it wasn't easy for everybody that came out.
No, it was not. I mean, that's expensive, and for people coming from the East Coast who had kids, who who had to find ways so someone to be with their kids,
right?
And,
young kids too, and they still came. So it was like really just touching that everybody wanted to be there, and they made it happen. So that was just so special.
Yeah, I was. As I was looking at everyone, I mean, I still kind of felt a little down that Robert and as well as, another good friend of mine, Hav, couldn't make it.
Right.
And so, but it's one of those things where I'm going to see them again. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was wonderful.
Right.
And people are still talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody at my gym is talking about it. It's like, oh boy. Yeah. Because
the wedding of the year, the event of the year. I'm like, ooh, what? And I can't stop watching certain videos or looking at pictures. I'm just like, I want to relive it. I want to go back.
Yeah. And it was the people.
Mm-hmm.
It was the people. And that just makes me feel that much better.
Yeah.
To be around just good people,
right?
Who just want to enjoy life and celebrate, our wedding and everything. And it was,
right.
Yeah.
And but to go into a little bit after the wedding and getting back into the rhythm of things, like first I had to get back into the rhythm of I don't have to be thinking about the to-do list.
Yeah.
Right. So that mental list of things is kind of gone. Right. There's a few things like planning the honeymoon and some residual things from the wedding. But, I'm like, oh, God, normalcy again. And so I know that you picked up a lot of slack of things that normally we would share. And I felt like, and I got really comfortable with that. But I know that I don't. Ooh, yes. But I also don't want to take advantage. So I want to make sure that I'm going back and doing my share of things, because that's the best way to do it. No one should be wearing down the other person.
No. And with all the work that you do, whatever I've been doing is not in any way overshadowing what you do because you do so much, so it's okay for you to take a break from it. It really is.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's new for me, like share the load of life with someone. And I know in a lot of relationships, one person does something completely and the other person does something completely, but we kind of do both of everything.
Yes.
There are some things that the other person just does, but it's not too heavy like you might see in a few, relationships where for them that works. You know what I mean? Like one person does all the cooking and cleaning and the other person does all the working or something like that. But I feel like we have a good balance.
We do.
Of doing things so that no one gets like too worn out with we both work, you know what I mean? But I feel like we have a really good balance with that. And I want to keep that going. I want to take advantage because I don't want to become one of those women who are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. My husband,
you would never become one of those women. Not as active as
the women who are like that, but for me,
not as active as you are. There's no way that would. There's no threat in that at all. But I figure before we wrap up here, did you have any kind of lessons learned that you wanted to give out, other than you already talked about the day of coordinator and how critical that was?
I just want to say have fun on that day. I'm in some groups of wives and wives-to-be, and I hear a lot of drama. I think one of the ways we avoided a lot of drama is not having bridesmaids and groomsmen.
Yes.
Not saying, what I mean by that is that trying to manage all those different schedules and likes and dislikes and everything can be really stressful, and there's just more voices of telling you what to do.
Yes.
So consider that. You know what I mean? Or keeping it small, I don't know how people have like 10 and 10 on each side.
Yeah.
But that can be fun too. It just depends on your group. It depends on who you're working with. I would say that if you don't have someone helping you with the money, don't go into debt over it.
Yes.
I would say don't go over into, you could still have a pretty nice wedding without some things, like, because we did one of those all-inclusive packages, but of course I did the top tier package, but then still needed to change stuff. And it's like, that's just me being super picky, and I like things how I like it. But, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are that way, but there are other ways, like to be creative. And if people are offering you help, take it.
Yes.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
You know, and and remember why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Keep that at the forefront. You know, that's really important. How about you?
No, I think for me, it's really just love the process. And there's going to be times of tension between the two of you, and really just take the time out to talk about it.
Yeah, right.
You know, not all that, oh, she's just going to think that way. No, we need to take the time to talk it out and figure out how we're going to move forward instead of just pushing things off to the side.
Right.
So I think, you know, some of the things that we've learned throughout our relationship helped us so much during this time, because when those tense situations happen, we could just shut things down and, okay, well, now we're gonna talk about this,
Right.
and we're gonna talk about it until it's resolved. You know, none of this, oh, get over it. No, we're gonna talk about it,
Right.
until we both feel good about what we're gonna do going forward. And I found that now the more that we do that, the easier it becomes to just have the conversation. There's no nervousness or anxiety about it. We know that we love each other. We know that we want to be together, and we know that we want to make things work.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's get married out there, people, but with the right person and the right way.
Yes.
Which can look different ways, but
Absolutely.
you know, the point is to be joyful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so from this will be our last podcast really talking about that, and then we'll get back into I think growth is next.
Yes.
So next week we'll be talking about growth and some other things. Anybody got any suggested topics? We'd love to see that and hear that. You know, stick them in the comments field.
Right.
Put it on our Instagram, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And maybe we'll be able to talk about some of those things.
Absolutely. And we have a few people in mind that we want to invite on. But if you do too, if you know people, you like, oh, I would love to see so-and-so talk to you, or this couple, like we see some couple, other couple podcasts, and I'm like, oh, that would be great. You know, especially if they're different age bracket or live in a different area, whatever the differences could be. It would be nice to like have that conversation. Yeah. So if you know anyone or can think of anything, please share it.
Yes, definitely let us know. But for right now, for Love, Growth, and Narratives, episode 21.
21?
Yes. I'm Freddie.
And I'm Tiffany.
And husband and
wife.
Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
Bye.